Okay, Act 1, Scene 4. And I don't want you to get confused by this one, so we're going to walk through this one together. Act 1, Scene 4. It begins with Kent. Now, if you're reading from the No Fear version, I don't know what version you're reading, it's just going to say Kent. However, he is in disguise. So when it says Kent, now let's pull this up here. We still have King Lear, and he has two servants. So we have the Fool and Kent. Kent and the Fool are not the same person. Okay, so Kent is in disguise. He's just a servant here. He's just like a poor servant. Let's say poor servant. They are not the same person here, okay? A lot of people get confused about that part. So he comes in and he says, "Hey, I really want to serve you." Lear is beginning to notice that people are not respecting him. So he's getting a temper. He's starting to be more rude to his knights. Um, and Goneril and Oswald notice this. Oswald comes in the picture. So again, Lear has a daughter, his oldest. Her name's Goneril. Her servant is Oswald. Oswald comes on Goneril's behalf. Remember, they talk about this in Act 1, Scene 3. And he basically says, "Hey, you need to control your temper." Lear does not like this. I'm going to read this passage to you between Oswald and Lear. Basically, he says, "Why have you come and not Goneril?" Let's see where we're at. He calls him, instead of king, he calls him my lady's father. My lady's father, my lord's knave, your horse and dog, you slave, you cur. He's very offended by the fact that he calls him my lady's father instead of king, because that's what he is. He's a king. "I am none of these, my lord. I beseech your pardon. Do you bandy looks with me, you rascal?" And he hits him on the face. So he slaps him. "I'll not be strucken, my lord. Nor stripped neither, you base football player." That is Kent, but again, he's disguised. But so Lear does not know this. And I want to say one thing just for the record. Um, Oswald or Lear and Kent are old, but they're in their late 40s. However, this is very old for this time period. The Fool comes in the picture, and he is what we know as a court jester. And typically, a court jester is it's just someone who is hired to make fun of other people, fun of the king, but he doesn't have to be polite about it. Okay, so he's often very witty and wise, but he's allowed to be there for entertainment and make fun of people. Um, so the Fool comes in and he essentially is there just for entertainment. Okay, he teases Lear for being a fool, and he says he's silly for only giving his property to two of his daughters while he's still alive. Um, Now, because this his job is to make fun of the king, Lear is offended by this. "Dost thou call me a fool, boy? All thy other titles thus how given away, that's thou wast born with." He's saying your title as king was already stripped, which is really interesting because in this chapter, he has been called two things besides king. He has not been called king this chapter. He's been called thy lady's father and fool. So that's really interesting. Goneril comes into the picture and she says, "You're acting inappropriately." I'm running out of time. I'll be quick. She says, "You need to act smarter. You need to be smart." But she's just stirring the pot. Her husband is Albany. Albany is kind of a sucker. He doesn't really do anything. He's powerless, kind of a wimp, unlike his wife, Goneril. And we'll talk about that a little bit more as the play goes on.